Homesteading can be one of the most rewarding things that you ever do for your family, but it can also be one of the most challenging things. And I'm not talking about the sweat equity that it's going to require. I'm talking about mental health. Today I want to talk to you about how homesteading has impacted our mental health and what we've done to overcome it. So after living in cities for over 3 decades, Alex and I decided in the summer of 2020 that we wanted to move to the country. We purchased a 7.5 acre piece of property and it's fantastic. But we didn't know much about animals, gardening, or really anything homesteading related, so we dove hard into the world of YouTube and began to educate ourselves. Our favorite YouTube homesteading channels to watch are those from the seasoned veterans. They've been doing this their entire lives, or at least for decades, and their knowledge is truly amazing. But it can also be pretty intimidating when you're a novice. When you get on YouTube and hop into the world of gardening, you'll see these pristine gardens. There's not a weed in sight, they have these beautiful raised beds, and everything just looks easy. When you're ready to learn about how to preserve all that food in your garden, you'll find some humble experts out there, but it seems like they have every tool you could ever imagine. They have dehydrators, multiple canners, freeze dryers, and more jars than you ever thought one person could own. When you're ready to start learning about how to maintain your property, you'll see some awesome channels out there that have even more tools. They've got tractors, dump trailers, excavators, and it can kind of make you drool with envy. Doing all this research had my wife and I so excited. Alex and I were ready to hit the ground running, and we wanted to emulate all of the people that we had been watching on YouTube. Now, the property we purchased is gorgeous. It's got a very long driveway, lots of land, and we're surrounded by organic farmland. The only issue is that the old owners were not homesteaders, so there wasn't much infrastructure in place. The property did come with a very large old barn that had some milk stanchions in there, but it's been decades since it was used for animals. There are no pastures, no orchards, and not even a garden set up. So Alex and I had a lot of work to do. Growing our own food was at the top of Alex's priority list, so starting a garden seemed like the first logical step on turning this rural piece of property into a homestead. But it was a lot harder than we thought. We were overwhelmed trying to decide if we till the garden, do raised beds, or this fancy no-dig method we kept hearing about. Eventually, our garden was overcome with weeds, and while it wasn't a complete failure, it was certainly a wake-up call for us that gardening's more difficult than we thought. So we decided to start a homestead with a very young family. When we moved here in 2020, our oldest had not even turned 1 yet, and within 2 months of moving to the property, Alex became pregnant with our second daughter. During the pregnancy, she had to deal with some awful sciatic pain that lasted 2/3 of the pregnancy, so needless to say, she was busy raising our oldest and dealing with that pain, so a lot of the homesteading activities fell on me. I still work a full-time job. I'm fortunate that I get to work from home, but I'm busy from 8 to 5. As soon as I'm off work, we start the chaos period with having little kids. It's dinner, bath, and bedtime, which takes a lot out of you. And we only had a few hours a day to try to get things done. It really started to weigh heavily on us after a while, and we always felt anxious knowing that we didn't have time and the list of our responsibilities continued to grow. You're gonna have periods of self-doubt where you're spending every waking moment working and you still feel like you're getting nothing done. You'll start asking yourself questions. Am I cut out for this? Why am I so bad at this? Why is this YouTube mom with twice as many kids as me make things look so easy and I'm struggling so hard? Now, Alex and I have both been asking ourselves these types of questions lately. And while there's no magic solution to curing your mental health or anxiety, we've recently gained some perspective that has helped us out quite a bit and can probably help you out too if you're having similar thoughts. My cousin and her husband came down here recently to help us spread some compost in the garden, and they said some things that got Alex and I to start thinking. Now, they both still live in the city, so when they come down here, this is their little escape to the country. My cousin said that she doesn't know anybody who does backyard gardening, let alone the 2,500 square foot garden that we put in. She was also equally impressed with Alex, who has been canning and baking bread on a weekly basis in the kitchen. Her husband also had very nice things to say. He continued to compliment me for what I've learned since we've moved out here. He's a mechanic by trade, and he was impressed that I've taught myself a lot about heavy equipment and how to work on our engines. I get kind of embarrassed that until the age of 34, I had never even changed oil on anything. Now, this went on and on for nearly their entire visit. They had so many nice things to say to us, and it came at a time where Alex and I were both feeling kind of depressed about how little we had accomplished as homesteaders in our 1.5-year journey. Now, the key to overcoming a lot of mental issues you face, whether you're homesteading like we are or really anything in general, I think is perspective. So the more I thought about it, these people I was watching on YouTube are our heroes. They're the people that we want to become in time, but they're not just starting out. They've been doing this for decades or even their entire lives. which seems obvious now that I go back and reflect on it, but at the time, I was continuing to compare myself to them. It's not a fair comparison. Anytime we have friends and family that come to visit us, we're their window into the country. They don't watch the same channels that we watch online, and as far as they're concerned, we're crushing it. Now don't get me wrong, the purpose of this video isn't to throw shade at people on YouTube who are fantastic at homesteading. They've done nothing wrong, or even our neighbors who have been doing this longer than us. The issue is with ourselves. It's really just Alex and I in our own heads thinking that we're not doing enough because we see other people who have more than us or who seem better at this than us. In fact, the people that I've been watching on YouTube, they're the ones who have inspired us to do many of the things that we're doing now. And I think it's really important to have those that you look up to, but you also have to be careful on who you compare yourself to. If you do want to make comparisons, make sure it's apples to apples. The more I think about it, when it comes to homesteading, it's really hard to make any kind of comparison. Nobody's one situation is the same. Really, you just have to set your own goals and measure yourself against those goals. When you start having self-doubt or start feeling down on yourself, that's where I think it's really important to adjust your perspective. And not just with homesteading, with anything that you do. No matter how far along you are into your journey, there are people out there who aren't going to be as far along as you are, and they're going to think that you're just Superman or Superwoman and wish that they could be like you. One of my wife's cousins has 4 children, twice the amount of children that we have, and we always think of her as the model mother. She seems so calm, and all of her kids are so well behaved, and Alex especially looks up to her cousin. And on a recent visit, her cousin shared with Alex that she was very inspired by her. She thought it was amazing that Alex had all this time to be baking bread, to be gardening, canning our food. And she kept asking Alex how she does it. And Alex was kind of shocked that the cousin that she looks up to felt the same way about Alex. And this is just another example that sometimes you need to shift your perspective. It's just a strange feeling for something that you can feel like you're an amateur at or have only been doing for a short period of time that you can already have people that look up to you. So what's the truth about homesteading? The truth is, this is one of the best things that you could ever do for you or your family. It will challenge you, it will humble you, and it will teach you patience. Let me know down in the comments, what about homesteading has challenged you the most? Thank you for watching today's video. If you got any value or learned anything, please click the like button so this can spread to more people, and we'll see you in the next video.